Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, I know, you know what I'm going to say on this one probably, maybe, but we're going to talk about this new thing going around that we're starting to hear whispers and buzzing about in the news that's making people sick. And before anyone just assumes that I'm going to, scream and cry and run for the hills, just hear me out. Is this a legitimate thing, this monkeypox? Is it just scare tactics? I don't know, but we're going to get into a few things here in just a second, because we try to stay on top of things. That's what we do. We try to stay on top of what's going on, and that's what makes us better prepared, okay? We have our physical preps, we have our spiritual preps, but our mental preps, part of that is staying on top of what's going on, so that we're ready for it when it happens. Just want to mention once again, next weekend is our big Prepared Homesteading Expo. You can go to preparedhomesteadexpo.com. You can find out more information about it. Actually, this morning I was talking with a few different local businesses that are going to be there. A couple of small, family businesses that sell things. And I think it's going to be a pretty good event. Now, I want to clarify something. I actually had to go over this with my wife because I don't think she fully got it, where my vision is on this. And I'm not going to say that my vision is going to be fulfilled this year, with this next week as this happens, this event. But this is what I would love to eventually create into being. So imagine for yourself the dollar collapses, or hyperinflation happens, or they unveil the new digital dollar and they force it on us, or many other scenarios that could happen that forces us in a position that we either have to choose to get things in our hands and our foreheads and give away all of our identity and bow down and all this kind of stuff just to do business, or we go out away from the cities and stuff that are a little bit safer, and you start to see little marketplaces pop up, these little gray market, black market places where people come together, kind of like what you saw probably in movies and stuff. And I can't think of any off the top of my head, but you've probably seen it in movies way back in the old days. Before there were, brick and mortar businesses around, you always had these, little kind of swap meet, farmers market, little festival type places, little marketplaces, where people would come and they would sell and they would trade and barter their goods. You'd probably have some people, whittling things, making things right then and there. You might have people there demonstrating how to do things, doing little tricks, all kinds of stuff, okay? That's what I want to recreate. And I want to recreate it not just to benefit us in the immediate, but to benefit us long-term, because it teaches us that we could be coming to the day sooner than you think, to where something like this is the only way a lot of us will have to go out and do business with each other, where it may be in someone's back field or an empty lot somewhere out in the country, where someone just says, hey, yeah, you can take that field there and make the announcement, and on certain days a week, anyone that wants to come and barter and trade and sell their stuff and demonstrate things, whatever, it's open for that. And that is really where my heart is in trying to create something. An expo, what you're familiar with, maybe if you've gone any type of homesteading or prepping things, it kind of gets close to that. But what I want is just a really true free market to be set up there. And I'm not sure that we're going to get that this year. But that is where I want to see this go. Where it's just a place where people can come. If you have things that you want to trade, you can come there and do it. And this year we are going to have a few people speak on different subjects. We'll have some people demonstrating skills, but the big thing is just kind of a family festival, market, free market, open market type event is really what I'm hoping that it'll eventually become. So for those of you coming or wanting to come, if you want to set up a table or a booth or demonstrate something that you do, whittling, sewing, crocheting, painting, anything like that, it's fair game as far as I'm concerned. I've told people, as long as it's legal in the state of Missouri, you can bring it and display it and sell it and whatever. That's where my heart is on this expo. Anyways, let's get into this monkeypox stuff. Excuse me. It's growing pretty fast. Looks like that there's at least 100 cases in Europe alone. From the information, it's kind of like in the early days of the whole COVID thing. It's coming out so fast, it's hard to keep track of exactly where we're at this moment. And I'm sure things have changed since I've recorded this at the time that you're watching it. But it looks like there's now 2 cases, one in Massachusetts and apparently another one in New York. It seems to be fuzzy on whether or not that's been absolutely confirmed or if it's enough. And then it looks like I'm hearing reports of an possible another 2 or so more cases here in the United States that are iffy, that could be. We've got Canada, Australia. It's moving around. It's moving around fast. Here's a little chart here. And this is, now again, this isn't up to date to the moment, but when I pulled this off the internet, it seemed to be current as of 4 or 5 hours ago. So you can see where some of these cases are and which ones are confirmed and which ones are suspected and stuff. A lot of this looks very similar to what we saw in the early days of COVID. We're starting to see countries in Europe warning about it. Ireland has put themselves on alert. The World Health Organization held an emergency meeting on this. The information online between news agencies seem to be all over the board. It's so reminiscent of the early days of COVID. We've got one like it's either NBC or ABC. I can't remember. I didn't write it down, so I'll forget. One news agency says it's not a big deal, don't worry. The other news agency says this is something to be concerned with. This is nothing new because we've all been through this before. Now, let's get into some stuff that maybe you don't know. Just a couple of years ago, there was a war game. Big surprise. Remember, just a few months before COVID came out, there had been a war game. And the same thing happened here. The World Health Organization, U.S. National Security Council, African and Chinese Centers for Disease Control and Prevention were there, as well as biotechnology companies and pharmaceutical companies all collaborated on this. And they determined that this scenario would last about 18 months and result in 250 million people worldwide dead. That's a lot. This independent panel, this same article here, independent panel for pandemic preparedness and response has issued a damning report to the World Health Organization about COVID, basically saying that it was at such a catastrophic level because actions were not taken, that countries didn't act fast enough, they were slow and fragmented on their response, and that if people were better prepared and more unified and worked together and very swift, that it wouldn't have been as bad. And that's quite interesting that this report comes out just as we're seeing this push for this World Health Organization treaty that Biden is pushing, basically where we would give up all of our personal rights. You know, the World Health Organization could come in and put mandates and restrictions on us, not our own government, not your local government, but the World Health Organization. So that's all happened. Now, this whole monkeypox stuff. It's interesting that it's happened just a few months after, if you remember, I believe it was back in December, they had found a smallpox vial up into some lab up in Pennsylvania. And then a month or so later, there was that car wreck or that van wreck where some lab monkeys had gotten out and possibly a woman had been in contact with them. I'm not saying that's where this came from. What I think, and this is, I know, real tinfoil hat wearing stuff, I think that's all that stuff, that's like code. It's like their little code for, you know, sending out their little messages, letting us know what's coming next. Bill Gates has been talking about smallpox, and smallpox and monkeypox are very similar. They're extremely similar diseases. We've been hearing from all sorts of, for the last several months, that there's a new one coming, the next one this fall, coming this fall, all this kind of stuff. Like they're getting us ready. So does that mean that that's what we have? That this disease is real and it's upon us? I can't tell you that. I do know that as soon as the first case came out in Massachusetts, the federal government ordered like $120 million in monkeypox vaccines. This vaccine works for monkeypox and smallpox, apparently, because they're very similar diseases. I don't know. I think just in the same way, and I said this early on with COVID, like really, really early on with COVID. I said something to the effect that it almost doesn't matter whether this disease is the big one. It doesn't matter whether it's as deadly as what they think it could be or if it's less. That doesn't matter. What matters is that they're going to use this. They're going to use this to expand their power and to get people under their control even more. And that's exactly what we have seen for the last 2 years. I mean, I still see people, even here in my area, an area that has never had any kind of mandates. We never, ever, ever. Not on a state level, not on a county level, not on a city level, nothing. Where I'm at, I went through the whole thing with not one single mandate of this. And yet I still see people in my area wearing them, okay? They were able to captivate enough people to ensnare them in their trap. And so even if this is a big one or it's a bunch of baloney, very possible, good chances it could be used for that. We need to be on our toes for this. I don't think we need to be panicking, though. If it is legitimate, monkeypox, depending on what website you get on, because it's not really something that science seems to know great deals about, but it's kills anywhere between 3 and 10%, maybe even up to 30% fatality rate. That's a significant amount more than COVID, lots more. I mean, even on the best day, the COVID death rate, mortality rate was like 1.5, 1.7. 3, 6, 10% or more, that's a lot. 10%, it is believed by many experts that a pandemic with a death rate of 10% would completely decimate our country. It would bring us to our knees. And if we had that along with all this other stuff that's going on and not still fully recovered from COVID, it most definitely could. We need to be aware of what's happening. I don't think we need to panic on this. We're kind of getting used to this kind of stuff, so we should be a little bit more prepared because what we've experienced for the last couple of years. I am going to leave a link, and I have to be careful about this. I don't even know if YouTube's going to allow this video to play anyways, but especially what I'm getting ready to show you, this is a big no-no. So we got to be careful here. Look at this image that I'm showing you. There's a link to this article down in the description below. I've done some research, and apparently this particular thing that is being talked about in this article has been shown to be extremely effective with smallpox and monkeypox. So go read that article because that's something you can do. Get your houses in order, folks. We gotta, we gotta stay on top of things. And this monkeypox stuff, it is moving pretty fast. I'll give them that. Just in a few days, we're seeing in multiple countries, dozens of cases. It looks very similar in a pattern of what we saw 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. Does that mean it's the same thing? No, it doesn't. It's most likely, if it's as natural and unadulterated, if you know what I mean, of a virus, then it's not as virulent. But we don't know what's been altered. We don't know how much it's been played with. It does appear that it can be transmissible not just through physical touch and sexual touch, but it's possible also through droplets, like mucus droplets. Not necessarily aerosol, but if you hack and spit and cough and spray little droplets on someone, it can be transmitted that way. It's a lot worse thing. It's way more serious than a coronavirus. So get your houses in order, folks. Get ready for this. Again, I'm not saying it's the big one. I'm not saying anything's going to happen from this. It could fizzle out. But I will say this. We are seeing a pattern start already. just in 3 or 4 days at the most that looks very similar to a pattern that was happening over 2 years ago. So, is history repeating itself, or is this just another, little hiccup that in a week or so everyone's going to forget about? It remains to be seen. We'll know soon enough. But the best thing that we can do is take the knowledge and experience that we've already learned, the things that we've learned since then, and apply them to this and get our houses in order, get ready. And I hope that I can see many of you next weekend at our expo. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.